I kind of would like to have a happy ending for Ame, so let's do this. Ame's happy dating game! Yay! Oh, continue. I didn't have any save files. I should probably make a save file this next time. Oh, CG mode. Anyway. Well, let's go. I might skip this. What the heck, Ame's fun. Peach-on, let's go on a date today. The one who spoke was a well-dressed girl who liked to dream big and call her partner a stupidly cute nickname like Peach-on. Her name was Ame, and she was my girlfriend. Her black skirt fluttered around her thighs as she hovered excitedly, sort of like a fly buzzing over a pile of garbage. She made no attempt at hiding her desire for my attention. And it was so cute. She knew she was cute, better than anyone in fact. Every single one of her movements was exaggerated for the perfect effect, and it always worked. She was the star of her own show, running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. She knew she could get away with it too, because of how adorable she was. She wielded her own cuteness like a weapon that could get her anything she wanted. Although she had a childish charm to her, she had the cunning mind of a veteran tactician. Thanks for working so hard for me all this time. I know you fell asleep at your desk because you were up all night editing videos for me, so I feel kind of bad for waking you up, but... Ame fidgeted with her hair, looking at me apologetically. Her thick, glossy locks hung in 2 pigtails and a long fringe that covered half of her face. She could cry all she wanted from her hidden eye, and no one would be none the wiser. It was an extra layer of protection along with her over-the-top acting. That's my theory anyway. Legend has it that no one has ever seen the left half of Ame's face. Not even I'm privy to what's underneath her bangs. Alright, sleepyhead, I'm going to go brush my teeth and do my skincare routine and get changed. You'd better be ready for our date by the time I'm done. Such a happy Ame. She beamed at me, her smile warm and bright like the sun. She was so beautiful and adorable, like a little flower begging me to pick her. How could I ever say no to her? People say that every beautiful rose has its thorns, but I think it's a little different for Ame. Her arms were covered in thin scars that ran across them haphazardly. If she had thorns, then those thorns were hurting her too. But flowers don't do that, so what would she be instead? I don't want to hear you complaining about this date being too short notice or whatever. Love is unpredictable like that. Or don't you care about me enough to keep up? A single tear rolled down her cheek from her right eye. All traces of her earlier smile had disappeared as sadness pulled the corners of her lips downward. She wailed as she swung into a full-blown breakdown. You don't even love me, do you? You're just with me because you want the super chats I squeeze out from my nerd fans. It's called emotional abuse, you know. She sniffled and wiped the tears from her face. Her cheeks took on a pinkish tint as her eyes continued to leak and grow puffy. Rather than diminish her looks, however, it only served to make her already enormous eyes look even bigger. Of course, all of this was an act too. Ame had perfected the craft of crying on command and making it look really convincing. As a streamer, she needed precise control over her emotions, turning on whatever she wanted like a switch to elicit certain reactions from her viewers. It was her job to cry and smile with purpose, or even get so riled up she could snap a keyboard in half. I was familiar with all this as someone who lived with her, and cared for her in a romantic capacity. Just as I knew everything about Ame, I knew that this charade she was putting on was her way of showing her love toward me. I also knew that if I ever saw her crying real tears, it could only mean one thing, that things were over between us. But even though I knew this wasn't real, she was still crying, and no proper human being would leave a girl crying. I had to do something to soothe her. The tears being fake didn't change the fact that she was deeply stressed from streaming every night and desperately needed a break. Putting herself out there on MeTube and social media meant that all eyes were on her. She had worshippers that treated her like a goddess, people who made it their personal mission to poke fun at her, and others who saw her as a sounding board for their emotions. It was simple enough to understand how such chaos would eat away at one's mental well-being, but only those who'd been through the same thing could truly empathize. Maybe the money and attention really were as intoxicating as she made it out to be. But even so, could this hell truly be worth it to her? Alright, now that we're going on this date, says me, let's decide on where we go. Choose wisely, because it could make me love or hate you more. Did I also mention that it'll affect what ending you get? Well, now I have. If you ask me, Ami was stuck. She had real skill and talent. She was a smart girl. Every night, she would don her silly costume as the Internet Angel and stream under the name OMG Kawaii Angel, just KAngel from now on, because saying the full thing every time is too much effort. Her streams gathered hundreds of thousands of nerds from all over cyberspace every night. All of the respect, lust, jealousy, hate, love, and boredom that congregated were compiled into a neat little metric known as the viewer count. Then that number would determine how much money she would receive for her efforts. It didn't matter what intentions her viewers went into her streams with. The important thing was that they became another number for the pile of numbers that ended up as cash in her bank accounts. And boy, did she have a lot of those numbers. Not to toot my own horn, but I had a very big hand in keeping those figures up. Ami was hugely dependent on me during her daily life, and most of the logistics of her streams were handled by me too. But that's enough about that. The undeniable thing was her overwhelming charm was what made her career possible. Stats drove people crazy. Those numbers pushed them to the brink. At some point, Ami must have wondered whether I loved her for who she was, or for the numbers she produced. We started off as two broke asses who found comfort in each other, without any money in the equation. I think what we had was genuine love for one another. Now neither of us could be so sure anymore. On the other hand, it was possible that we were now too close for either of us to unstick ourselves. No matter how hard she tried to ignore it, there would always be one persistent worry at the back of her mind. Maybe I can't be satisfied with my partner anymore. The image of us splitting could be looping in her head. It was something the two of us had to overcome, together though. What does being in a relationship mean? Could we take the steps into the future together, hand in hand? These were the questions we had to face. Ami was a middle school dropout who had a terrible personality and could do stupid things sometimes, but she was always thinking about things much more than the average person. If her head was really as empty as people like to say, she would never have made it so big as a streamer. She was the kind of person who would rather be direct and spring a surprise date on her partner than try some elaborate scheme to bait me into one. There was the hope that the element of surprise would bring back the butterflies we both felt when we started dating too. From a practical perspective, it was also a good way to assess how one partner would deal with an unexpected and potentially stressful situation. I mean, we'd all want someone who can handle both well, right? Plus, I'm not really one to talk. I chose this after all. OMG, wait, so we're actually going? Ami's eyes sparkled like 1,000 diamonds. I didn't care if this was an act or not. I wanted to believe that underneath her long bangs, her left eye was also shining like the brightest star in the sky. Hey, I'm so excited! Whatever happens to us in the future, I just want us to be happy. Okay, let's pick a place to have our date. Peach and I'll go wherever you go, unless it's jail, then no. And we haven't gone, so of these places, we haven't gone to the hospital or arcade yet. I said let's go to the hospital first, because I think of these, that's going to be the one that's kind of most likely to have, like, a premature ending, so I'd rather get that out of the way first. Are you seriously taking me to the hospital for our date? You're lucky you have me, because any other girl would have dumped your ass straight away. I mean, it's fine. I'm here out of meds anyway, so it's good timing you planned this date because of that. Oh, so it's good timing. You planned this date because of that, didn't you? You're always so on top of things. Thanks, Peachon. She's definitely giving me the side eye, though. Today, we were at the psych ward. Ami often came here to pick up her various pills and prescriptions. She had SSRIs, stronger stuff for her really bad days, sleeping pills, medicine that stopped her from suddenly recalling things that were too painful to remember, all sorts of things. If she ever ran out of those, she'd have to play the dangerous game of facing reality all on her own. Since Ami's pills were running low, I decided to bring her here before things got out of hand. Doesn't it seem counterintuitive to have a system where people who struggled with doing things on time all the time had to pick up their meds on time all the time? Guess. It's kind of like credit scores too, right? It's like, if if you have shown in the past, granted, I get the incentive structure. It makes sense on, like, an actual level, but, like, on the micro level, you look at it and you're like, oh, I've had trouble paying my bills before, and my reward for that is more expensive bills. Great, that's helpful. Hey, you ever think about the people you see in waiting rooms? I think the ones I see here are especially unique. I don't see any. This ward accepted many patients with tough cases, so the waiting room could be quite comforting too. Confronting? Most of them weren't that out of the ordinary, though, like an old folks playing their Game Boys, even though it was released way past their time. Those who wandered back and forth in the corridor like NPCs, and kids who clung to their mothers unmoving and unspeaking. As different as they were, there was one thing that they all had in common. They were all living with unthinkable traumas that regular mentally healthy folk couldn't even begin to imagine. I've been telling you, my ideas keep getting stolen every day by famous mangakas. I am the one who originally invented the dark fantasy genre. I've already told you this before. I think this might just be a random patient, not Ami. My apologies for the Ami voice. Yeah, okay, that was a middle-aged man. There was a middle-aged man, middle-aged perhaps, in a room somewhere shouting, probably arguing with his doctor. It was to be expected in this ward, and all the staff seemed used to it. Anyone who wanted to work here would no doubt have to be able to take those kinds of outbursts calmly without affirming or denying them. The man raged on, still inflamed by the plagiarism he was convinced was happening. It's happening all the time on the websites. Shosetsuka ni naru, that everyone can post their light novels to. They're all reading my stories and ripping me off. Even the ones that get anime adaptations, except their MCs are all shit and bland. His shouting went on for a good while. Ami stared at the door that it seemed to be coming from, her face peaceful and composed. Everyone here is fighting their own battles the best they can. It's tough when your worst enemies and best friends both come from the inside of your own head. Yeah, I suppose it would be. I know what that feels like. There was a time where it felt like I had insects buzzing around my head all day long. They would all fly around and screech and cause me all sorts of grief. I probably screamed like that man, too, just to stop hearing them for even a second. I fought that battle alone, too, just like he probably is. I watched intrigued as Ami's face grew solemn. It was a rare sight to behold. I laid my hand on top of hers and laced our fingers together. If someone cut the two of us out of context right now, we'd just be like any other couple, enjoying each other's company side by side. However, we weren't like any other couple. I mean, how many others out there would spend their day at a psych ward? It didn't matter to me, though, or Ami. We were both perfectly fine with spending our time here. For people who have to tough it out alone, they must really hate me for having someone like you with me. Maybe they'd even curse me for being blessed with such an adorable face, too. I wouldn't blame them if they hated me for building a name for myself and earning money through my streams by using my outcast energy to attract fans and sympathy. I must be something like a class traitor to them. If they were pointing behind my back and saying I was faking it all for clout, I wouldn't blame them at all. So I don't feel like on most days, or I feel like it on most days, but who would I be if I didn't turn my mental illness into a business? I'd just be a stupid middle school dropout. I have my good looks too, but they can only get me so far in this cruel world. I only got so big as KAngel because of my hard work, and I won't let anyone talk down to me about all the time and effort I've invested. Whatever, that's just all fluff anyway. Having a partner like you, who would keep tabs on my meds and take me to get more when I'm nearly out, automatically makes me more privileged than half of the people on Earth. I wouldn't have the right to even look at that man beyond that door in the eye. Ami chuckled softly, resigned. Her face grew dark as she fell silent, gripping my hand back. Hey cuties, it's KAngel, your totally normal internet angel who has a super normal brain. What did you all get up to today? I went to the upstairs doctor for the first time in a while today. Aren't I so good? Well, it's really nothing special. We should normalize getting professional help when we need it. Anyway, I took my meds earlier, so if I seem a bit out of it, that's why. If I say something weird, no I didn't, but if I did, just give me a gentle poke in the comments. The place I go to is pretty well known, actually. I looked up my symptoms and just picked a doctor that seemed like they would get it. So wherever I go, I see a lot of people like myself there. The surprising thing is, if you look up the hospital's reviews, they're actually super bad. They're all like, the doctors that never take me seriously, they're all quacks. Well, I guess all online reviews are kind of like that. But if you know the people writing them probably weren't in their best state of mind, and yet they continue to go to that hospital, when you think about it, wouldn't all those low reviews actually mean the place is good then? I know it's good for me because the staff there listen to me and make me feel okay. My point is, the reviews are so bad because the patients feel like they can express themselves however they like. Which is actually a good thing. The world can be such a tricky place, huh? Anyway, if any of you are going through it right now, I hope you can find a professional that you vibe with. But before that, get yourself something warm to drink and bury yourself in your comfy bed and get a good night's sleep. I'm gonna send you all to bed now, so get ready. Good night now, my little nerds. Bless. I had so much fun yesterday. Where will you take me next? Surprise me. Okay. I would just see what happens if we go to the same place twice in a row. Are you seriously taking me to the hospital for a date? You're lucky you have me. Because any other girl would have dumped your ass straight away. I mean, okay. If it's exact the same, I'm not going to read. I'm just going to keep an eye. Okay, I mean, the only place we haven't gone to yet is the arcade. Taking your girlfriend to the local arcade is like the IRL equivalent of taking the girl in a dating sim, trawling for secondhand PC parts, and then tanking your affection meter. Oh, is it? May need to rethink some things. But it's a bold choice. Nice one, Peach-on. We're already not normal, so why pretend to be? Chilling at an arcade together is peak. I'm ready to get my game on. I knew it was a bit of a gamble, but good thing Her Highness seemed pleased. We gawked at the giant coin-pushing games and their bright lights, mused about how old-school games, like those crocodile-smashing ones, were probably the gateway, and enjoyed everything the arcade had to offer. It was a wholesome establishment perfect for families, which meant that there were none of the usual nerds there. Just a quiet corner of town with nothing weird going on. Kind of feels like we're teenagers who just started dating. For two youngsters who wanted to go somewhere fun, but A, didn't have that much money, and B, had half the city block off to them. As minors, game arcades were the ideal date spot. Much fun could be had for a few hundred yen, and photo booths just hit different, even though all of us had smartphones and a million photo apps now. Plus, the really big and fancy arcades sometimes had bowling alleys or pool tables, in case anyone wanted to flex for the girl. Youth. Not that I really know what that feels like, since no one at school would have ever dated me. I'd always come here alone to practice fighting games and gun blam, and like so many guys would come up to me being like, oh, you want me to teach you? I could play co-op with you on gun blam if you want. Like, ew, okay, nobody asked. But even though I hated how patronizing they were, not gonna lie, I still kind of liked the attention. Ami sat down at an old, worn-out cabinet and began fiddling with the joystick and buttons, perhaps recalling a combo that some guy taught her long ago. I couldn't really blame those nerds for approaching her the way they did, as annoying as it must have been. A beautiful girl in an arcade was like a fresh spring in the desert, especially for the people seeking refuge from their daily lives. It was only human for them to approach her and call out to such beauty and wonder. Now that I think about it, those nerds were probably just really lonely, huh? I bet some of them watch your stream now, Ami. Ami continued to tap and flick away, cycling through different combos. None of them had any effect on the game, of course, as no coins had been inserted. The demo screen played on, oblivious to any input. And if you just wanted to verse somebody, you could easily do that online. It must have been really starved for human contact if they bothered to come all the way to an arcade in real life. You get a sense of kinship fighting with other outcasts who'd also been rejected at school and work, you know? Just the both of you here in the darkness of the arcade, punching it out. I think this is how all fighting games should be played. Online you wouldn't know who you are going against, just climbing the ranks mindlessly. But here, you can just peek around the corner and see your rival. Whatever, not that I care. Ami stood up suddenly and walked deeper into the bowels of the shop. OMG, there's KAngel merch in the claw machines! Go me! She wasn't alone anymore. There was no more waiting for awkward nerds to hit on her as she sat alone at a cabinet. She had a partner and all the fans and followers in the world filling the emptiness in her heart. I don't think we're really the kind of people to blow all our money on claw machines or verse each other on racing games like other screeching couples, though. I wish they had a merry-go-round here. Let's go home. But I had fun. I think this will become one of those days that will come back to me once in a while when I see something random. We left the bright lights and loud noises of the arcade behind us. If we ever wanted a game, we could just hop on our phones and find something to play with. Hello cuties, it's KAngel, the arcade angel. What did you all get up to today? I went to an arcade. It wasn't huge or famous or anything, but I passed by it while I was on my walk and just decided to go in by myself. And guess what, guys? I saw a claw machine with my merch in it. It was very exciting. I saw some schoolgirls there talking about how cute they were and how much they wanted some. I was so happy, I almost... they're talking... Okay. I saw some schoolgirls and they're talking about how cute they were, they being the KAngel merch, and how much I wanted some, being the KAngel merch. I was so happy I almost stepped in to catch some for them myself. But man, arcade-goer demographics have changed so much. It wasn't such a nice arcade, but there wasn't a single nerd in sight. But it's because you guys are all cooped up at home gaming instead of going outside to play games. Who else will fill the dark, dingy corners of the arcades if not you all? Who else is going to stand around with their arms folded like Bison and backseat game the whole time, then go out for ramen together with the other randos whose real names you don't even know? You guys gotta start pretending like you're in Umera's manga and go out and do this, I'm begging you! Like, that sounds like so much fun. I almost wish I could do it too. I guess nowadays pro gamers are celebrated so much that they've lost their gloomy, nerdy reputation. But you know, it's kind of sad that they have to act all professional and stuff now that big money's on the line. I mean, people usually become gamers because they'd rather not deal with the real world, and they go to the arcade to meet their little group of nerds who feel the same way, right? It wasn't much, but it was their slice of joy. And now they have to deal with the real world because they play games? Plus, I bet there's a whole bunch of people who love nothing more than to play games with others, but are forced to stay in the dark because they can't or don't want to act all hyped up for the big companies and stuff. Anyway, that's just my thought of the day for my visit to the arcade. If I'm talking shit, then just ignore me. If you haven't gone outside in a while, then do it. Go play a game with someone you can see face to face. But shower first, okay? Promise me you will. Anyway, I'll see you guys next time. Bless. I had so much fun yesterday. Where will you take me next? Surprise me. Okay, so at this point, we've gone to every place. And we've established that repeating places doesn't do anything. So, I guess we'll go to... I think it's plausible that the secret to the good ending is you go on all the normal dates first, and then, you know, that actually makes a lot of sense. You go on all the normal dates first, you actually establish yourself as like a good, proper, loving couple, and then you go to the child's home and like meet her parents and stuff. Yeah, okay. That makes a lot of sense. So we're going to do all the normal dates again, and then the child at home, and I mean, that'll probably be all the content in the game. I might go through one more time just to see if like something happens if you like spam one date over and over and over again, because it's often the type of thing that these guys would put in, I think. Okay, so I went on the other 3 dates. They're exactly the same as before, so if you really need to see them again. Just, I guess, watch the last video or something, but... Now, the hope here is, since I've done all 5 of these dates here, hopefully the child at home will end a bit better than last time, because we've done the prerequisite homework. We'll see, though. Ka-tunk, ka-tunk. She looks more composed than last time, right? Right? The train clanked on as it carried the 2 lone passengers forward, toward Ame's childhood home. She very rarely spoke about her family, and never even explained where their house was, exactly. However, despite that, Pichan still suggested they visit. Regardless of whether heaven or hell was waiting for them, it was a life partner's duty to follow their other half into it. I was scared of being happy. I mean, look at me. I may be cute and pretty, and sometimes my brain cells kind of work, but not exactly someone who deserves to be happy. Every time I thought about it, I felt like I was being crushed by a weight in my chest. It comes back every time KAngel gets more followers and pure fans who genuinely like her. I keep thinking that Karma will get me for it one day, and whenever I go to bed, I can't help but think that I'm going to wake up to a flame war and everything will come crashing down. Ame sometimes woke in the middle of the night, screaming, perhaps escaping from a punishment worse than death that her mind had conjured up. The better her life was during her waking hours, the worse her nightmares would become. Not even the thought of being on a date could chase away those fears. But even with it hanging over my head, I had fun. It helped pull me out from the claws of my own mind for a little while. I started to even think that maybe I could be allowed to be happy. And that thought is getting a little stronger. Ka-tunk, ka-tunk. The train clanked on as it continued to carry the 2 lone passengers forward. Watching the sunset on an empty beach, enjoying our youth at an arcade at night, fighting against my inner demons at the hospital, nerding out as a couple together at a shopping center with retro vibes, reminiscing our childhood at an abandoned school building. You know, TBH, I thought it was all kind of stupid. 'Cause, like, it's all kind of pointless, you know? Well, I guess it does give me content for my streams, at least. Ame was both Pichan's girlfriend and an angel devoted to the hundreds and thousands of nerds waiting on the other side of the screen. She was prepared to turn any situation and experience into content, but on the flip side, this meant that wherever she went and whatever she did, there'd be countless shadows just waiting around the corner. The stress of having to constantly switch between just a regular girl and one of the most popular streamers ever was immeasurable. The more it built up, the more it fed into the air of unease that hung over her. Her world was always covered in a shroud of some indescribable anxiety. She hid half her face with her hair, so she wouldn't have to look straight at that uncomfortable something. It was a sad path to take, but she chose to walk into those thorns. And despite everything, the train continued to run, never able to speak a single word, whatever thoughts simmered away in Ami's head. The mechanical clanking and rattling erased it all. But you know, the only choice I have is to accept happiness. The train slowed to a complete halt as it arrived at its final stop. The 2 passengers alighted and headed for their destination. Oh, we have happy Ame! Yes! I will make my life a happy one. Their steps synced to each other. They walked side by side. Slowly, slowly. I'll do it for you, Pichan. Thank you for never leaving me, and always being there for me. And I'll do it for myself, too. I'm a little scared, but I think I can do it. A moment of silence stretched between them. Their steps continued, however, carrying them forward to their goal. Part of me thinks that all love is just playing pretend. I mean, 90% of all couples end up breaking up, so couldn't you say that they were just hinging everything on the short moments that felt good? Listen to me, being an edgelord. I just thought I had to get that out there. Would you tell me that's not even true if you didn't really believe it? Right? There's no reply from her partner, but Ami took it as a silent agreement and skipped happily. No matter what happens from now on, I know that all the dates we had, and this moment of us going where we needed to go together, was all real. That's enough for me. She smiled as the lie left her lips. The lie? When she spoke to her doctor last, she said nothing but lies. Technically, her claims of insomnia and chronic fatigue weren't untruthful, and the medicines that would then be prescribed to her did help stabilize her. Her fundamental imbalances and misalignments weren't anything as superficial as those symptoms, but she wasn't about to reveal them to anybody. Would anyone be able to understand the true inner workings of the girl who called herself the Internet Angel? Would any doctor or lover be able to do that? Maybe her partner, her Pichon, was the only one who could. At the very least, the one thing that did remain true was that she was headed toward her goal on her own 2 feet. Pichon said nothing. To be more exact, nothing had been said since the moment they met. When Ami said she wanted to go on a date, that proclamation had been met with neither sound nor reply. We're almost there. Where? Isn't this exciting? What is? I get the feeling that all sorts of things are going to start coming our way, but it's nothing that we can't overcome together. Yay! Why? I hope our love will last forever. She stopped. She pointed at something in front of her and murmured softly. Promise you won't let seeing that stop you from staying with me? I love you, Pichon. I love you so much. So much. Welp, in true needy streamer overload fashion, the happy ending has to be bittersweet. Of course.